Hello, Innies and Outies, this is FoxLogic, and I'm finally getting around to making a video. I apologize, I have not really made a video in almost a month. I've been pretty busy. I also kind of felt like January and December are really hard to make stuff and get it out and get recognition for it because everybody's busy. And so I didn't really put a lot of effort into trying to get anything out in those 2 months, though I got some stuff out. But I was really just focused on my commissions because I am a commission artist, a freelance artist. So I did have quite a few commissions, and I got through those. But today I actually wanted to show my progress with Adobe Illustrator. Now, if you aren't aware, I think I mentioned it in another video, but I got a potential job offer to work with a studio that does graphic design. And, I've actually been kind of avoiding graphic design. It's not what I took college courses for. It's not something I have an exceptional background in. I have made logos for people, but I typically do it in Photoshop. They're not vector pieces. I've played around with vectors, but I just don't have very much understanding. I have understanding of it. I don't have much experience with it. I have the textbook understanding of it. As I did have to do Adobe classes in college, and I typically leaned towards Photoshop whenever we did projects. But so I took on, in this piece, I took on, as you can see, the Tardis. I was looking for something that was familiar, that had clear lines, that could be done in vector, that wouldn't be too complicated. And so I'm tracing over this image that I just went and found on, I think actually this particular image came from a BBC account on Amazon. This is actually like a little statue that you can buy, and so I was like, that's great, I'll just get that. So it is BBC's image. And I have to give credit to them because this is A, they own Doctor Who, B, I'm tracing over their image, they own the image. So, and I'm not making any money off of this, I'm not monetized in any way, I'm not trying to sell this image. This is just me trying to learn on Illustrator. I'm not claiming any sort of property in this whatsoever other than my own efforts to replicate it. But anyway, so I just I think I got pretty far. My last video that I uploaded was just so funny to watch because I was getting so frustrated. I say a lot. I gotta make a subconscious effort not to say But it's I have about 27 minutes to fill up with talking, and I'm finding myself totally unable to come up with anything, but I will try. So here I go. So I figured I'd tell you, like, my, gosh, I said again, oh my gosh. I need to not do that. Stop it. So, my experience with Doctor Who came from, I think it was about 2012. I saw it, and I saw 2 episodes, and it just didn't stick with me for some reason. It was probably because the first episode of Doctor Who I ever saw was the one where we meet Cassandra for the first time, and also it was a night that was very traumatic for me. I used to work at a sushi restaurant, and I was cleaning the sushi belts, because you clean that every night, and I had acrylic nails. Now, they weren't very big, they were just like very modest, oval-shaped acrylic nails, and I didn't turn the belt off. I had been doing it for years. I had the job since about 2009 at the time, so I'd been there for almost 3 years, and 2012, I'm just, whatever, I'm an old pro, nobody can tell me otherwise. And I was using rubbing alcohol and a wet rag and a dry rag and this non-stick spray. So it's a pretty intense way to clean the belt, but it was always shiny. And so I'm pushing the rag along as the belt's going, which I kind of felt like if you kept the belt going, I kind of felt that it got extra clean because you're going over the actual moving slates or moving lattices as they go. I don't know what else you call the the chain link fence. I don't know, the thing that moves. And I kind of feel like if you just let it go, then you have the opportunity to clean that multiple times as you're going over the belt. And plus, there's still things on the belt, and so that gives the, like, if I don't think we even had customers anymore at that time, but I don't know. The chefs and the servers both have their own way of doing things, so we left the belt on. And so I was pushing the rag along the belt, and I got my thumb nail caught in one of the corner gears, and I kind of got jarred, so I kind of like push pull and try to yank it, and it just like ripped my entire nail off all the way down to the bed. That's super gross. All the skin all the way up to my first knuckle, it just came off. And I bled everywhere, and I was like, oh. And you know it's bad when you don't feel it. Like, I felt like the chunk, like I felt like a heavy weight, but then it didn't feel like pain. It was not painful. I was just like, whoa. And so I start to go into shock, and I'm heading towards my boss's office. And I was like, so-and-so, son. And I hold out my hand, and shock just hits. And I was like, my finger fell off. And he goes, what? And he looks around, and he's like, oh god. So I'm like not running, because I'm in shock, hobbling to the bathroom, and I pass out before I get to the bathroom. And so one of the other servers, who was a very good friend of mine, she ended up helping me clean it up, and she wrapped that sucker as tight as she could, and they called my boyfriend at the time. And so my boyfriend was like, well, do you want to go to the ER? Well, here's the thing. At the time, I didn't have health insurance. And so if I went to the ER, it would be a bill that I would have to foot. And so, but because it's a work injury, I could go to urgent care and they'd pay for it. And so we actually drove to the ER parking lot and sat there, and I thought about it, and I was like, I just don't want to go in there. I don't want to go. I just don't. I'm so uncomfortable, and I'm barely awake, and at that time, kind of pain started to kind of set in. Like, it was throbbing. It was like, I could feel my own heartbeat in my thumb, and I was like, ching, 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 and I was like, I just want to go home. And so my boyfriend took me home, and he invited over his friend, and he goes, hey, Fox has had an injury at work, bring pizza and donuts. We're watching Doctor Who. And so I was barely awake as I watched this Cassandra person trampoline, and I just, like, I was in a different world, I think, subconsciously. I just wasn't really there. I was like, that's really weird. Like, and something's bad when you're not eating donuts and pizza and beer that's offered to you. Like, they were like, bring everything over. It was really super sweet that he brought his friend over, and his friend I love his friend. I used to work with his friend in another job, and so I know these people really well, and it just didn't hit me for some reason. I was like, whatever, Doctor Who looks real weird. I thought at first Doctor Who was like almost soap opera-y. It was like, it was like space soap opera, but I ended up just going to bed. I kept that wound wrapped super tight and went in to my bedroom, and I barely even remember it. And I just remembered that my boyfriend at the time helped me prop it above my head, and I just was out. I just passed out. And the next day, my boss was like, you get 4 days off or so, just get better. I went ahead and put in the work, the accident report, so you're gonna get a call from corporate here soon. And corporate was like, but Jesus, I heard your finger fell off. And I was like, no. They're like, no, San, so-and-so San. I might accidentally say his name. I'm trying not to. But my boss at the time We'll just call him, oh my gosh, Zazu-san, because it's so close. But Zazu-san was like, he told him, and they were like, oh, we're so sorry that happened, and I didn't really want to get into further trouble, so I was like, I have these fake nails, and they're like, yeah, it's probably a good idea not to have those. And so, yeah, they paid for it. I went to urgent care the next day, and which is like a less intense. It's not ER. It's like if you have to go to the doctor right away, and you don't have no time for a doctor's appointment, or your doctor can't see you right away, then you can go to the urgent care, which I just ended up going to urgent care, and the company paid for it. But that was the first time I'd ever had an experience with Doctor Who. I'd heard about it. It didn't really impress me right away. I just kind of was like, meh. I am so much more of an anime, or not anime. I'm not an anime nerd. I'm not a weeb. I don't really watch anime as much. I love animation. Avatar: The Last Airbender, Ed, Edd n Eddy. I will sit and watch Family Guy. I'll sit and watch, let's see, I think at the time it was like pre-Steven Universe. I don't even know if Adventure Time was even out yet. It might have been. I think it might have been. It might have been out. I just wasn't watching it quite yet. Yes, it was out, actually, now that I think about it. But I don't know, it didn't really ring with me quite yet. But however, years later, I want to say back in like 2016, I was single and I was doing, I think, OkCupid or something, and I hit it off pretty well with one of the guys that I met on there. It didn't last very long, which is my fault, but he was really into Doctor Who. That was like his favorite thing in the whole world. And so he was like, we gotta watch it together. And he actually lived like an hour and a half out of town from me, so I was not like super eager to go meet him in person. So we ended up just kind of hanging out in Discord. Actually, I think at the time it was Skype. We were hanging out in Skype and watching movies together. And I think we just kind of found a site that was playing it, and we watched like the first season as of 2009, which has the Ninth Doctor, and then we watched the David Tennant Doctor number 10, and then Matt Smith and all that, and we just binged watched the whole thing, and I was like, this is great. I'm really enjoying this. This is actually, I had no idea that it was going to be this in depth. I really enjoyed the stories. The love stories were great, but like I really enjoyed the suspense and the level of poetic irony. I am a huge sucker for poetic irony, and so I got into it. So from there I was like, all right, well, I guess I'm a Doctor Who fan. What a great show. And from there, it was just like, something that I've always been kind of into. I mean, I have other interests as well. I'm not going to just dedicate my whole life, like, to one fandom of my entire life, Like, you got people that are into Undertale and just Undertale, and they don't even talk about anything else. I'm just not one of those fans, so I appreciate most things. But, yeah, I really liked Doctor Who. My favorite Doctor... That's really hard. I like them. I like them all. I really enjoyed Matt Smith's storyline, because I kind of felt like there was a lot more of a love story there with Matt Smith and River. I really enjoyed River, and who was the first one that got him into fish sticks and custard? I don't even remember who that was. But I really like David Tennant too. I think he's kind of like everybody's favorite, because it's David Tennant. But yeah, I really like him. I really like Peter Capaldi. I think he did a fantastic job. Jodie Whittaker, I like a lot. She's kind of like the perfect female rendition because she's not super girly. She's very straightforward. She's kind of got the same whimsical attitude in the character, which I enjoy. Um, Her companions are pretty fun. I think Ryan's kind of a stick in the mud, but he's that kind of works because there's a whole lot of stuff happening, and that's kind of the best time for sticks in the mud because they're the ones who. It's like Eustace, in Courage the Cowardly Dog, where it's just crazy stuff happens, and he's just like, nope, not getting out of my chair. So I'm gonna get my mallet. But Ryan's definitely not as confident as Eustace is. Still a stick in the mud. But, yeah, I've been enjoying Jodie Whittaker. I wasn't a super huge fan of Number 9, and that's probably why I don't remember his name. I kind of felt like he was too rough around the edges, and too excitable. In a way, I don't know. He seemed like just a predator almost. I was like, that guy looks like an asshole. But yeah, I enjoy Doctor Who, and now I still have I've got 16 minutes. I've still got 10 minutes to talk. Let's see, what else can I say? I've done Doctor Who artwork before. I did a digital painting of David Tennant that was, it was not a trace. It was a copy, but it wasn't traced over, and I didn't take anything from the original image and put it into my image. I just had the image, the screenshot to my left, and my digital painting to my right, and I did my best to follow. And I spent hours and hours and hours and hours on it, and it looks really, really good. But the problem is that I have a lot of people that think that it is the screen cap. I don't want to say it's because they think it looks so good that it's a picture, but it's so close to the screen cap that people don't notice that it's a painting. And I have had to explain to quite a few people, no, that's a digital painting. I had to do the blending, and I had to do the brush strokes, and I did all of that. If you look up close, if you zoom in, you can see the digital brush strokes. You can see where the gradients are. You can see that by the time I got to the hair, I was like, you know what? Screw it. I just did a whole bunch of flickery lines all over the place. But yeah, that was pretty good. I then tried to do, after I was really successful with that one, I tried to do one of Peter Capaldi, and that one did not look as good. That one I didn't spend nearly as much time on. I didn't quite get the values correct. I think that was what it was, because none of it had line work. It was all straight up painting, and I just really didn't get his face correct. And I think it's because I was using a blurry image that, when I zoomed in, it's like the pixels would just become blobs, and so I was just kind of guessing where things were. And I think I lost a lot of motivation when I zoomed out and saw that it looked awful, and so I was like, I don't really care anymore. This is becoming frustrating. And so I got as far as I could get, and then just kind of let it go. But yeah, let's see, my favorite episode. Oh my gosh. I don't know how to say my favorite episode without giving away a huge plot point, but it was definitely one between Matt Smith's Doctor and River and time travel, which sounds so dumb to say, but that's the premise. You're kind of like, oh shit, because something happens and you're like, oh gosh, and then you're like, whoa. I really also like the episode with River and Peter Capaldi where he takes her to the planet where the sun takes like 20 years to set, and I thought that was so incredibly heartthrobbing romantic that I just liked it. I think the scariest episode is the one with Rory and what's her name? Amy? And it's with the Weeping Angels, where the Statue of Liberty is a weeping angel. And when it comes to like things that are bigger than me, I have this sense of vertigo with big things. And the idea that the Statue of Liberty is this giant man-eating monster is frightening, because they go outside and there it is, like its face and its fangs, like, and if you look away, it'll move and get you. And so I thought that was really scary. I think I actually have another good example of that vertigo. I think it was Twilight Princess with, Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess. And there's this, like, giant whalefish that you have to kill in, like, one of the temples. I'm assuming the Temple of Water. But it was so big, I literally, like, my fingers and toes would start to tingle because of the amount of vertigo. I mean, it was fun. I wasn't totally afraid of it. It's frightening to me, but I'm not some pussy. But, I still got the bad guy down. But it gave me weird feelings in my toes. Anyway, yeah, Doctor Who's been around for a long time. I don't know. I don't know what else to say. I know that, both Matt Smith and David Tennant and the girl who plays Amy have all been at the Rose City Comic Con here in Portland, and every time they show up, I don't have the money or the time because, for some reason, I am antisocial when I have a job. But, yeah, I just would like to make a trip out to one of the Comic-Cons and see them in person. That'd be great. But I just don't have the money and the time. Yeah. What else can I talk about when it comes to Doctor Who? Let's see, the last episode I watched was one of the Jodie Whittaker episodes, and it was where, like, the first Doctor meets the Peter Capaldi Doctor in the North Pole, and they run into this sentient, like, AI who, like, records people's memories and keeps them indefinitely. So it's like, if you die, this AI is basically what's keeping track of heaven, which we kind of have seen already in some episodes. I mean, there was one where we get introduced to the Master's female persona, like Missy or whatever, and she's kind of running something similar, but it's evil. And let's see, my favorite bad guys. I feel like the bad guys are all very tropey for some. Well, it's because they take a lot of, like, they draw a lot from the old, like, 60s and stuff seasons, and so you've got like reoccurring villains that were created back, like, when we didn't have technology to do compositing or 3D animation, and so you've got, like, people in obvious, like, robot suits, and it's like, I'm still supposed to be scary, but it can be scary. I mean, that's the thing, is that Doctor Who isn't, like, it can be jump scary, but it's more psychological if it starts to do any horror at all. Like for instance, the Weeping Angel, that's the Statue of Liberty. I mean, you see, like, its face, it doesn't move, but the idea that that is massive and can eat you is where the scariness comes from. Let's see, the Daleks are pretty funny. I've often joked with my dad about, because he keeps going, well, maybe I can do an R2-D2 where I can get in, and my dad's a full grown man, so he can't fit into an R2-D2, but I was like, well, you could fit into a Dalek, because those are full grown men inside Daleks, and he was like, nah. I think I'm good. But yeah. I kind of like the episodes where it's hard to tell where the bad guy is. Like, or a circumstance that's gone wrong and it pits everybody against each other. Those are kind of fun. But yeah, the David Tennant one was pretty good. Him and Rose were pretty sweet. Let's see, I've actually a couple times tried to get friends to watch Doctor Who that haven't, and it usually doesn't go very well. They're like pretty much like I was before I started watching Doctor Who. It's hard to get friends to like the same stuff that you like. You just have to have happenstance where they're in a situation where they can watch it. So, you know, whatever. But anyway, I think I've kind of come to the end. Not quite yet. I've got a couple minutes. Dooby dooby doop, dooby doop, la di da di da. Oh, I think I'm just gonna end the voice right here. Anyway, thanks so much, Innies and Outies, for keeping up with my channel. I really appreciate it. I know that my channel's not very big and that I need to get on a consistent schedule. If I want to make this work, I have to figure something out where I can be consistent and constantly post stuff. So I really appreciate those of you that are sticking with it and sticking with me and, you know, just kind of keeping up with what's going on and encouraging me to make stuff. So I really, you guys are awesome. I really like you guys. Thanks. Anyway, have a good one, Innies and Outies. Take care.